On SME OnPoint this week, we reflect back on the 2023 budget that was delivered by the Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana and the support for the small and medium sector. Godongwana has given a bit of hope with regards to energy, the bounce back loan guarantee scheme, as well as infrastructure investment. Today, we host a fireside chat with 3 entrepreneurs to hear from them directly about their views on the budget and other issues. I am joined in studio by Dr Roche Mamabolo. He's the founder of Lora Centre for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Ms. Refilwe Sebothoma, she's the CEO and founder of PBM Creations. And via Zoom, I'm joined by Khanya Ndzululeka. She is the co-founder and CEO of Setana Capital. Welcome to all 3 of you, and thank you so much for joining us on SME OnPoint. Let me start with the lady. We've just gotten breaking news that we have been grey-listed. What goes through your thought as an entrepreneur person that runs a business? I'll start with you, Refilwe, and I'll come to you, Khanya, and then I'll come to Dr. Mamabolo.
Yeah, sure. I think very, very challenging times, but we were discussing just now that, and I am a very optimistic person generally, and I think beyond everything else, we are just a resilient country, and I think entrepreneurs specifically have just carried that kind of spirit through and through, so I'm really just very optimistic that we will continue to thrive just as we have continued to thrive as a country. Yeah. I think that is our strength as South African entrepreneurs, and we need to carry on with it.
I love your optimism. Khanya, let me hear from you. Earlier on, we heard from Botswana, for instance, and they were telling us about their experience of being grey-listed and how difficult it is, and actually warning us that if we can avoid it, we should. This means that the cost of getting investment or getting investors in the country is going to be also quite difficult. How prepared do you think the country is for this kind of action?
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I think it's definitely unfortunate from our perspective, especially as business. However, this is something that I think has been in the works for quite a while, whereby we have actually seen that, the news have been reporting that this is more likely to happen than not. So yeah, I do think it definitely is going to make things a lot more difficult. But I do think that we still will be able to recover. And quite a lot of that is going to come from the fact that over the years, our fiscal position has really improved. And our mining sector is also doing very well. So I do think that, from an investor's perspective, it's negative, but there are other positive things happening within the country. And just to echo my co-panelist sentiments, we are extremely resilient people. In my business, I deal with guys who don't even know what grey listing is. Informal spaza stores, informal restaurants, and they just, they keep going and they keep making money and keep putting bread on the table for their families. So hopefully we will be able to recover. It seems as though, Treasury as well as the presidency, they are looking into this quite seriously. Yeah. And hopefully significant strides will be made to overturn this sooner rather than later.
Yeah, thanks, Khanya. Dr. Mamabolo, obviously the economy has been quite weak, but as Khanya says, there are things that are working, there are sectors that are working. How much do you think this will put a pinch on particularly the confidence of businesses that you train at Lora Centre for Entrepreneurship and Innovation?
Thanks for having me. It's going to be a bit of a challenge because, when we talk about access to markets, access to exports, it's going to put extra burden on entrepreneurs who we are trying to say, if you're struggling to get a market locally, look outside. So the credibility thereof is affected. But I echo the same sentiments. It can't get worse than this. We have been seeing, we just came out of COVID, petrol prices are increasing, we had lootings at some point. So I'm quite confident that our entrepreneurs will be resilient. And a matter of time, I'm sure the government will put measures in place and will come out of this. It's tough times. Yeah. But I think we'll adjust to the situation.
Yeah. Refilwe, yesterday I know the SABC issued producer price inflation data that shows that PPI has gone up by 12.5%, and I know this would directly impact you at PBM, the rate of inflation at the manufacturing gate. What is the state of play there in terms of the business that you are conducting and seeing inflation really quickening the way it has been?
I think one of the biggest strategies for a lot of small businesses, particularly in our business, it's what we call leverage. And I think leverage has really become a buzzword, to firstly look at what are the opportunities that we have to work very closely with big businesses so that we can leverage off their skill set or even their ability to produce or bring in stock, at the higher capacity than we are able to do. I think that's first. Secondly, as I think the totality of SMEs, we've got so much to leverage, just among ourselves. And I think being able to also look at working smarter. What are the things that we are able to outsource to strengthen our business? Are we able to outsource all of those things and focus on the day-to-day core of our business? And I think that is probably going to be one of the things that will help. If you look at the energy crisis, a lot of SMEs, I know they have really won against that because they've done exactly that. They've looked at bigger businesses who are off grid, for example, and they've worked closely with them, or they've even rented spaces in those spaces just to make sure that they are not as badly affected by load shadings as they would normally be. So I think leverage is a buzzword for a lot of SMEs. Yeah.
Very interesting. Khanya, what do your members that you represent, or did they watch the budget? What did they think of it? Did they feel that it represented them and the businesses that they are running? And did it give them hope?
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, when it comes to the budget that came out, obviously a lot of positives. I think that the presidency and Treasury coming out with quite a strong statement on how to deal with the Eskom crisis. But in our business, we provide working capital, like I said, to quite informal businesses, your spaza stores and other township, economy entrepreneurs. And I think, from their perspective, quite a lot of the incentives that have been put together aren't necessarily things that they can really access and aren't really a priority. So as much as, it's great, it's particularly for your formal businesses operating in suburban areas, and if you're dealing with entrepreneurs who actually understand all the jargon, it is great, like 125% of your cost of investment in renewable energy, you're helping the planet, you are getting self-sufficient, and it's getting taken off your taxable income. That's a really, really good deal, together with the loan guarantee scheme. But, for the guys that we deal with, there's other pressing matters. There's the fact that, they're going to do work, for a company. They have to wait 3 months in order to get paid. There's the fact that they need to buy stock in order to fulfill that contract. There's market access issues. So I think that from my perspective, I would have loved to have seen a bit more that can actually address these particular entrepreneurs, because these are really the guys who are driving our economy. And it would have been great to see more of a stance similar to that has been taken to Eskom in being given this bailout, because it's been said it's coming with conditions. We have a number of state government agencies who have a mandate to actually support these entrepreneurs, but there aren't a lot of strict conditions that we see coming through to say that, okay, underperformance is, it's unacceptable. So, we would have loved to see something more, but...
Khanya and my guests in studio, I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to touch more on your thoughts about the budget and also the latest developments that have come out of Eskom, and what do you as entrepreneurs feel about that, and also more on load shedding and looking at the quarterly labor force survey that is coming out from SABC next week. We'll continue with this discussion after the short break. Welcome back. You're still watching SME OnPoint, and today we are having a fireside discussion with 3 entrepreneurs. I'm joined in studio by Dr Roche Mamabolo, the founder of Lora Centre for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Via Zoom, I'm joined by Khanya Ndzululeka, the co-founder and CEO of Setana Capital. And in studio with me, I am also joined by Refilwe Sebothoma, the CEO and founder of PBM Creations. And we're talking everything that has been happening in the economy, including, Dr Mamabolo, the latest with Eskom. How much does it concern you as an entrepreneur person that runs a business when you see the leadership issues that have been happening in Eskom, particularly the sudden departure of the former CEO, and of course now we do have an interim CEO. But as an entrepreneur, how much do you care about that?
I think this budget, or the biggest topic in this country is electricity, right? And I think it's disheartening to see what's happening at the parastatal. The amount of corruption that we hear is taking place, leadership changes, board changes. As an entrepreneur, we just want the lights to be on, because if the lights are not on, it affects my productivity. And if it affects my productivity, it affects my revenue. So it's a huge issue. It's a challenge. And I think if we don't resolve this soon, we are going to have a situation where most businesses, I know for a fact that there are some businesses that have closed doors because they can't operate. And there are those who are trying to find other ways. Yes, I mean, you look at the budget, you look at the incentives that are provided. Yeah. You ask yourself how many entrepreneurs in the townships can afford those kind of amounts of getting off the grid. Not many of them can. I would have loved to see in the budget more incentives, more opportunities being given to entrepreneurs as a way of relief. If you say buy the solar panel and get a rebate, I need to have the cash flow to buy it first. If I don't have that cash flow, I can't even claim. I can't even buy. I can't even claim. So it becomes a huge challenge. I would have loved to see more, red tape towards accessing of finance. Most of these government enterprises are sitting with budgets and they are returning back to Treasury because they've not been disbursed to entrepreneurs. And if you look at what the big issue is the red tape. You need to provide this, collateral this. It's just a big challenge. So now also with electricity increasing in 1st of July, it's just going to make matters worse. Cash flows of entrepreneurs are going to be even more constrained. So
I'm curious to hear about your particular experience, because I know you are in manufacturing. In fact, owning the whole value chain, Refilwe. How much of this new intervention that was announced in the budget to say that you will get a tax incentive or a tax break, does it encourage you at all? Will it be useful to PBM creations?
I think maybe the first call, it's really ethical leadership, especially because I feel SMEs are not excited by these bold and exciting statements anymore, because as a country, we just don't have a good track record of people being able to follow through and implement. And I think that's the first debate that we need to have, or even cry out for ethical leadership. Let us go do the things that we say we will go do, because unless that happens, it just becomes another brilliant speech that produces nothing, that we have just seen through the years. And I think echoing what Dr. Roche has just said it goes back to leverage, because how many SMEs can actually afford solar energy as an alternative, But I think some of the good things that we are seeing, especially from the private sector, is that they are coming on board. We have seen a lot of them actually inject a little bit more support towards ESD programs. Some of them, they've actually even just went to almost ignore their risk ratios, particularly to be able to collect or to delay their payments. They've made the decision to make sure that they pay SMEs a little bit faster. And I think that's something awesome that they are doing, that maybe a few people can follow on.
Well, very interesting. Khanya, next week we have the quarterly labor force survey released by SABC. It's going to give us an indication of if we're making progress at all in denting the unemployment rate. And one of the things that us SMEs do is to create employment for themselves and others. In your line of work, how difficult or easy has it been for the SMEs that you support to be able to create sustainable jobs?
Yeah, I think that it continues to be difficult. There are a number of structural reasons. Even before we get to your ESCOM and your load shedding and the like, we've already spoken about the fact that, when it comes to employment in this country, it has to come from small businesses. But a lot of the value that is created, we often only see it being something that big corporates will actually benefit from, right? So for example, if you look at the social grant, pot in South Africa, a lot of, the businesses that actually benefit from that are big corporates, your funeral services companies, as well as your FMCG, because people use that money to, pay off their funeral premiums, as well as just get groceries. And so we do think that, in the space, a lot of the guys are not yet in the space where they can actually think that, oh, okay, I am an employment creator. A lot of people are actually just still trying to survive. And part of the work that we are trying to do is to actually alleviate that one pressure of cash flow, as my co-panelist has said, just to be able to say that, okay, the guys that we feel, have a viable business, can we alleviate some of that cash flow so that a person can actually be free to think around how they can actually now begin to expand the business. But we look forward to seeing that survey. Hopefully there is an improvement, and we hope it's meaningful as well. It's in sectors that actually, imply that there actually is an improvement in people's disposable income and in their living standard.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of time left, and I'll just leave this last minute that I have to both of you about the difficulties that come with creating a job as a small business. How difficult is it for small business owners to create jobs?
I think in this economy, survival is the key term, right?
Yeah.
You want to survive. Your cash flow is constrained. Petrol price is increasing. Interest rates are increasing. People don't have much money in the pockets to buy, more. So, ever since COVID until now, the buzzword is, I need to keep the lights on, pun intended. I need to keep the business going. I would love to employ people, but I just need to have the cash flow to pay them. Unfortunately, that is, in this economy, it's a big challenge. I
can imagine. Refilwe, with just a few seconds.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just being able to retain the guys that you have, and because you don't have big budgets to pay big salaries, it's really about impactful leadership, making sure that you take care of your people that can just help you to higher your percentage of retention.
Yeah. Thank you to all three of you for joining us on SME OnPoint. Really enjoyed the discussion today. You've been watching the Fireside chat here on SME OnPoint, and I've been joined by three entrepreneurs who've given their thoughts on a range of issues. With me in studio, I have the CEO and founder of PBM Creations, Refilwe Sebothoma. Thank you so much for your time. She is joined by Dr Roche Mamabolo, the founder of Lora Centre for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Thank you for your time. And via Zoom, I was joined by Khanya Ndzululeka, the co-founder and CEO of Setana Capital. Thank you so much for your time. That is all we have for SME OnPoint for this week. Remember to support small businesses in your communities and keep those rands and cents circulating.